paranormal experiences don't really work to a timescale, and therefore we invite you to listen to a dark minisode. Hello everyone and welcome back to this week's Dark Minisode. Now, as many of you, and I do mean many of you, pointed out, there was no Dark Minisode for last week. However, there was. I hold my hand up and say I completely forgot to upload it. Which means, except for our patrons who did receive it, this week's Minisode is not so mini. It's a double feature, meaning you will get the Minisode you should have had last week and the minisode that is out for this week. And for our wonderful Patreon team out there, don't worry, we're starting with this week's minisode first, meaning that you can then stop listening as you've already heard the next one, or you can stay on and listen. Sincerely, sometimes I find hearing a story for the second time, I pick things up that I didn't the first time round, so you never know, it may be a very good thing. And as ever, a huge thank you to all of our patrons for allowing this show to stay how it is. And by that I mean always changing. The new introduction for the Dark Paranormal episode on Friday, that was a test and it went apparently very well. So it will be featured for all forthcoming episodes. Now that's the sort of sway our Patreons have. And if you would like to become basically a producer of the show, head over and join our Patreon or click the link in the show notes. We're now offering free trials at every tier so that you can get a chance to check out what I state, as you know, is the safest and best paranormal community online. And from the 1st of December onwards, our entry-level tier will feature 0 adverts. And believe me, I know I'm a podcast listener, a podcast fan, and I know how at this time of year, podcast adverts seem to ruin every show you listen to. I explained to our patrons recently that podcasters have what's known as a fill rate, which is how many adverts are filled on your show. We usually average about 50 to 60, maybe 70% sometimes. But throughout the holiday season and January, the majority of shows which have audiences that advertisers want are at 100%. And yes, that money is also vital to the show running. But I'm always a bit uneasy as a podcaster for my show that I'm fully aware how adverts can break the flow of somebody's experience, so please don't think I'm blind to that situation. But like I say, the lowest entry tier for our Patreon removes all adverts, even if you just use it throughout this festive period where normality should resume and the shopping world has calmed down. But anyway, let's move on with today's Dark Minisode. Hello, my name is Shakti. Not a real name. I'm from India and I've been listening to your podcast for over 2 years. And I've decided that this was the only podcast I trust with my experience. I'm sending you this email because I recently turned 18 and I wanted to kind of restart my life in a way without anything paranormal. And your podcast has given me that place and push to do so. I'll be changing the names of other people involved as I did not ask my parents or my friend for permission to send this email. However, I really needed to get everything off my chest and I'm finally going to college as I mentioned before, and I want to start fresh. Before I start, I want to ask if you pardon my grammar and my vocabulary. It's Kev just jumping in here to remind everyone again, and I will do so each time a request like that is made. We are not the grammar police. You send your experiences in as best you can, in whatever format you can. I will never pick you up on your language. If an obvious word needs changing, I will. But you are telling your experience, and you are certainly not being judged for being able to speak a second language that I would estimate over half of the world, including myself, cannot. But we continue with Shakti's email. Before I begin my experiences, I need to give a brief background about my family, my ancestors, and the apartment I currently live in. My family, especially my paternal aunt, is an occultist. She worships the demons or asuras in my language. Not that she's openly said that to anyone. We are all Hindus, and we worship the gods, or Bhagwan in our language, as most of my families do. The apartment I currently live in is about 35 years old, but with a lot of history to say the least. Things ranging from murder to suicide were common in the first few years of its formation. The apartment is in a circular form with 23 blocks and around 16 houses in each. I live in the block furthest from the main gate of our apartment. Now, moving on to the basement. It is the worst place to be in. It's always cold, it's always dark, be it day or night. My experiences, which started around the age of 8 in my paternal aunt's or Fufu's house. Aunt is Fufu in my mother tongue Bengali. Her house is in West Bengal, while I live in South India, and I was over at her house for summer vacation for a month. Looking back now, I realise there was something really wrong with her house. I'll explain the reasons now, bit by bit, as you read on. It started when I was home alone, as my fufu and uncle had gone to work. They're both doctors, and I decided to sit outside in her garden just to read a book for a bit and play with my toy cars. Now, her garden was gorgeous. The front part was full of flowering plants, and the back area was covered with vegetable and fruit plants. The garden looked normal up until you see the part of garden outside her room. It was dead. And by dead, I mean the soil was completely dead all the time. Dead in the sense that even if you plant a new plant in that soil, it would be dead the next day. Now, 8 years of age me didn't think anything about that, and went about her day playing with her cars and reading my books. That was until the book that I was reading was suddenly yanked out of my hand as if by another person. I remember being more confused than scared. The air was heavy and calm, too calm. Well, that was up until I saw the lady. She was tall, and by tall I mean as in 11 feet tall. Her hair was black, matted, with bright red lips and a smile so wide it disfigured her face. And her voice, God, her voice still fueled my nightmares. Scratchy, high-pitched, and so very terrifying that I froze for a moment before running out of the front gate to the street outside because something in me was telling me not to go inside the house. I ran and I ran until I reached a small shop front of somebody's house, completely hysterical and out of breath. The owner called my fufu and then offered to drop me back, but I refused to leave, and I stayed there until my fufu came home. On returning to my fufu's house, I immediately went to her room, which at the time I was sharing with her, and I curled up under my blanket. I used to hate sleeping on that bed because right at the foot of the bed was a huge antique mirror with carvings all over it, but the part that used to freak me out was that these carvings were always covered in a red liquid. Something else that was inherently wrong with this mirror was that the reflections were always wrong. Not wrong in the sense that the reflections were warped or something, more in the sense that the image just felt off. I hated sleeping in front of the mirror, and most nights I'd just stay awake, unable to sleep. Over the next few months, strange things started happening. Items disappearing, cabinets being open, drawers being messed up, clothes being ruined or torn, that sort of thing. However, the one thing that used to freak me out the most was this really bad smell that seemed to move around the house, and a red handprint that used to suddenly turn up in different rooms and would then just disappear. After a month, I returned home, and apparently for the next few years, nothing major ever happened. The usual things of items going missing and turning up somewhere else, but things you could chalk up to carelessness. However, that peace was destroyed at the age of 14 when I experienced it for the first time in my life. Now, a little context about my life and what kind of girl I was. I was and still am an avid reader, with enough books to make a small library. I also own several anime figurines and decorative notebooks, and things to make my bookshelves decorative. My family includes my mum, dad, myself, and a dog. Now, back to the first time I saw it. It was in the apartment basement. I was walking around 9 p.m. my time, and I know you would say it was stupid of me, but that late at night, the walk path of our apartment is full of workers, and most of these workers are grown men. Our apartment has had many of the horrible things I mentioned at the start associated with it. Murder, abuse, etc. Even, as mentioned at the start, histories of people taking their own lives, sometimes due to the abuse they suffered. Personally, even now, I would say that I prefer the dark paranormal over risking anything like that happening to me, because the paranormal dark can be detached, but once something like that happens to you, it stays forever. At least I would imagine, and I don't wish to offend anyone with that opinion. But back to what I saw in the basement. It was a girl, more specifically a teenage girl around my age, if not a few years older. Her hair was silky and long, which covered her frame as she crouched on the floor. She was crying, as in full-fledged sobbing, with her hair completely covering her face. The thing that froze me to the spot was how pale her skin was. It was completely white, like paper. However, I somehow found my voice and I asked, "Hey, are you okay?" What happened next was something that leaves me in tears when I still recall it this day. The girl's head snapped up to my face and her head was bleeding in a way that made it clear that she was dead. You see, her head was smashed open. The blood was oozing out of it. Her head was also twisted at an inhuman angle, and her smile, again, was far too wide. "I am okay, dear. Would you like to go for a walk with me?" It replied in an eerie voice, like scratching nails that chilled me to the bone. I shook my head, trying to back away from her and trying to run away, but I was yanked back onto the floor by my feet and dragged up the stairs to the first floor. I remember screaming and passing out in front of someone's house with broken nails and a broken ankle. I awoke in hospital, surrounded by doctors and a female cop. I was told that I had bruises all over, a shattered ankle, and my nails were broken from digging into the concrete floor. The doctors told me that the bruises were from me being dragged by my legs and from me fighting back, but also that whoever, or should I say, whatever, was dragging me was strong enough to shatter my ankle with just their grip. The cop asked me what happened, and when I told them what I truly remembered, they didn't believe me. The doctor chalked it down to PTSD altering my memory, but I knew what had happened. It was real. When I went home, I started researching about the apartment. This is Kev now. A quick trigger warning, we are about to mention sexual abuse. Please feel free to skip forward by 30 seconds and we will be clear of that section. I'll count you down from 3. 3, 2, 1. It turns out the girl I saw was a victim of sexual abuse in my apartment, and she ended up being dragged up to the terrace and pushed to her death. This just cemented what I'd seen and experienced. After my ankle healed, I never walked without my dog. Only problem, my dog loved the basement. Anytime we would leave the house, we would end up in the basement no matter how much I tried to not go. A few months later, a week before my 15th birthday, me and my dog were walking around the basement, and I felt this inexplicable feeling of dread. So great that it froze me. My dog stared at this spot in the basement and then started barking and growling. By now, I'd learned and heard enough to know I just needed to pick my dog up and get the hell out of that basement. And then things took a turn for the worse. Things started happening in my home. And when I say things, I don't mean tame things like objects going missing and appearing somewhere else. I mean so much worse.
You know, this holiday season, comfort isn't about finding more hustle, it's about slowing down, finding calm amidst the chaos, and creating a home that truly restores you. And that's where Avocado Green Mattress comes in, because you can create your own natural holiday oasis, because Avocado transforms your home into a peaceful grounding retreat, with their products made with certified organic and sustainably sourced materials. From breathable bedding to handcrafted mattresses, Avocado is all about true comfort, so you can rest, recharge, and wake up refreshed all season long. Every Avocado product is thoughtfully made with the planet and you in mind, and you can feel good about the comfort and quality that you're bringing into your home. And there are easy financing options with a firm to make your purchase more accessible. Prioritize rest and recharge with Avocado's organic comfort. Head to avocadogreenmattress.com today to create your natural oasis and save big during their holiday sale. Avocado, dream of better.
Well, the holidays are almost here, and if you still have names on your list, don't panic, because Uncommon Goods makes holiday shopping stress-free and joyful. They have thousands of one-of-a-kind gifts you literally won't find anywhere else. And you'll find those presents that say, I know you, I know what you like, I know what you love. And the chances of you giving someone a present they already have are exceptionally small. There is an artistry set that I've just bought for my little niece, and I know it's a one-of-a-kind and she will adore it. Uncommon Goods looks for products that are high quality, unique, and often handmade or made in the US. Many are crafted by independent artists and small businesses. So when you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting those artists, those small businesses, and every purchase is a chance to choose something remarkable and feel good about where your money goes. Because with every purchase you make with Uncommon Goods, they give back $1 to a non-profit partner of your choice, donating more than $3.1 million to date. And they have something for everyone: mums, dads, kids, teens, book lovers, gardeners, mixologists, you name it. So don't wait. Make this holiday the year you give something truly unforgettable. To get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/darkparanormal. That's uncommongoods.com/darkparanormal for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods. We're all out of the ordinary.
Today's episode of The Dark Paranormal is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it. So your dollar goes a long way. Visit progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Companies and affiliates' potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
Both my parents work, and thus I'm usually home alone after returning from school between 4 and 10 o'clock at night. I would cook dinner for the family, and I would personally love doing this. Well, that was until one evening, when I was sitting in my room, having set a chicken stew on the gas, and sat studying as the stew had to cook for 30 more minutes. Around 12 minutes in, there's a loud crash from the kitchen, causing me to rush over to see the kitchen door closed, even though I'd left it open, and I could see the stew seeping from under the door. I stared at this mess, trying to open the door, which seemed to be stuck. The door was a sliding door, with a gap that you could put your hand in to use to try and put more leverage behind it. I started doing that, and I was suddenly burned. I yanked my hand back and saw a burn in the shape of a square with an engraving that I've never seen before. There was a loud bang against the kitchen door, and my dog started growling and barking at the door. I picked up my dog and ran all the way down 8 flights of stairs in tears to my friend's house, who lived 2 blocks away from mine. I arrived at her door in tears, panicked with my dog shivering in my arms. My friend gave me a hot coffee and we stayed in her house before her dad offered to take her and me to my house, so he could see what happened. I nodded even though I really did not want to walk into my house, but I made sure to leave my dog in their house. We walked to my home, and the first thing that told me something was off was that the front door was open. Even in my panic, I'd made sure to close the door because I did not want whatever it was to follow me and hurt my dog. The 3 of us walked in, slowly, and what met our eyes caused my friend to gasp and grab my hand. All of my books from my bookcase were strewn over the floor. My friend knew that there was no way I would have done anything like that, because my dog and my books are the 2 things I would rather die than hurt. Her dad walked from one room to another, checking the rooms. When he came in front of the kitchen, he froze for a few moments before dragging my friend and me out of the house and back to their home. "You're not going back in there alone," he told me, pushing my friend and me into their home. He wouldn't tell me what he saw in the kitchen no matter how much I asked. Later, when my parents came home and took me home, her father grabbed my dad's arm. "You should shift. That house is wrong." That's all he told my dad before we went home. When we got home, all my books that had previously been strewn all over the floor had been put back to their usual place. But when they opened the kitchen, it was a mess. Stew everywhere, utensils thrown around, vegetables looked as if they were stepped on, an utter complete mess. My parents stared at the mess dumbfounded. Then all 3 of us started quietly cleaning up the mess before my mum prayed a bhajan, which is a prayer in Hindu religion. We just cleaned up and went to bed. And I slept with my mum that night because I was still freaked out. Since that day, things happened like banging at random times, knocking all over the house, along with a burning smell in random places. I could barely get through a night without a nightmare or sleep paralysis, and every time it was the same thing. The woman from Aunt Fufu's house, from when I was 8 years old. I would see her in my nightmares every night, and she would always be cackling in that awful voice of hers as she chased me. I would wake up shaking and cowering under my blanket, curled into my mum's side. But the sleep paralysis was the worst. She would be there, sat on my chest, looking down at me until I would be finally shaken awake by my mother. During this time, my only comfort was my long-distance girlfriend, who is one of the sweetest people I've ever met. Days passed like this. My grades began dropping, and I was sleep-deprived and constantly falling sick. These days turned into a year. I got pissed off and said, "F this shit," and I went to a priest, or a pandit in our language. The pandit took one look at me and threw holy water, ganja water, straight onto me. "You need cleansing, a serious cleansing. There is something that does not like you all around you." I asked him what I could do and if he could help me. The pandit shook his head. "Shakti, I cannot help you. I'm not strong enough to get rid of that." The pandit then called a different pandit. He told the second pandit everything, and he looked at me before nodding for me to follow him. He took me to a small ritual room before seating me right in front of him on a pidi, a small wooden stool used for puja. "You have an Ashura that's taken a liking to you. Is there someone who practices occult practices in your family?" I began shaking my head before remembering something. My fufu, I muttered out. I proceeded to tell him about the mirror, the wardrobe full of weird items and symbols, the garden, and most importantly, the lady. The pandit nodded as he listened to my words. She's followed you from her house. She's taken a liking to you. My blood ran cold as I begged him to help me out. He told me the best he could do is to give me a red braid string and gave me a god's necklace. He taught me some prayers to say when anything happened and told me that if I wanted, I could shift my attachment onto something. So that's exactly what I did. He helped me move my attachment onto a doll, which he kept in the mandir, or temple. I went back home and felt lighter. On returning, I decided to research about my fufu's house. And it turned out my fufu's home was built on unholy land where there had been ritualistic killings. I will keep the place anonymous because I don't want my fufu to face backlash. Till now, I've not had any nightmares nor sleep paralysis, but I have had the odd disappearing object and broken object, but nothing that I can't rule out or can't handle. Until today, nothing severe has happened for a month. I'm writing this as a way to move on. I will keep you updated if anything else happens. If you do add this to your podcast, please let me know so that I can avoid it. I don't know if this is enough for you to use in your podcast, but I would love for you to share it with your community. Thank you for helping me move on from my life till now. Please do reach out to let me know if you are going to use it or not, and if yes, then which episode. Thank you. Also, I'll keep you updated if anything else happens, and I'll try to get my friend's dad to tell me exactly what he saw in the kitchen that day. Again, I apologize if this seems a bit disjointed or all over the place. Shakti. Well, Shakti, thank you for sending in a terrifying experience, and I genuinely hope everything remains calm. I love receiving experiences like yours from places and cultures that I have a severe lack of knowledge regarding. So when I receive them, I have no idea where they're going to go. But by the sounds of it, this is a can of worms that potentially could open up to a whole lot more. And if you do manage to get your friend's dad to tell what he saw in that kitchen, that would be phenomenal. And I'm sure I speak on behalf of us all when I say we'd all love to know. And for anyone listening, don't worry, we have notified Shakti of when this episode will air so that they can stay clear of it, which should give you some indication of how much this experience affected Shakti. Okay, so this is the point where our patrons, if you wish, you can stop. You've already heard the next minisode that's coming up. And if you are stopping, thank you for listening as ever, and goodbye. And for everyone else, please stick around for the missing/not missing minisode from last week.
Paranormal experiences don't... Personally, I can find it really hard to focus, and as a non-drinker, I can also find it tricky to try and wind down. And how you go about finding your personal vibe is your individual choice. Do you know there's a 100% American farm-grown online cannabis company that ships federally legal THC direct to your door? And they found a way to combine THC with carefully selected functional ingredients so they can target nearly every mood and health concern you can think of. I'm talking about Mood.com's incredible line of functional gummies. gummies. And our listeners get 20% off their first order at mood.com with the promo code DARKParanormal. Forget one-size-fits-all supplements that just get you high. Mood gummies are optimized so it can take as little as 15 minutes to take you to the mood you desire. Like the Mind Magic gummies for creativity and focus. Or PMS support to ease cramps and balance mood swings. And there's a plethora of other gummies for you to find your perfect mood. These days we all know gummies just to get high can be bought from just about anywhere. But Mood have changed the game by combining premium federally legal THC with targeted botanicals to help you get in the perfect mood in as little as 15 minutes with no dispensary lines or no awkward conversations, just better days and nights delivered discreetly to your door. Best of all, not only is every Mood product backed by a 100-day satisfaction guarantee, as mentioned, our listeners can get 20% off their first order by entering the promo code DARKParanormal. So go to mood.com and find the functional gummy that matches exactly what you're looking for and let Mood find your perfect mood. And don't forget to enter the promo code DARKParanormal for 20% off.
Really work to a time scale, and therefore we invite you to listen to a dark minisode. Hello everyone, and welcome back to this week's edition of a dark minisode. And a big thank you to everyone who's reached out with your feedback or constructive criticism about how this season is going. And we love it, we want more of it, because as I've said since day one, this is your show, you shape it, you mould it. And the reason being, I want to discuss all things true, dark and paranormal with you, and I want to learn them myself. I want to hear about them myself. But also, it's vitally important that the delivery system, so to speak, is something that you're really comfortable with. So the more feedback we get, the better. And if you just have feedback, email it over to contact@thedarkparanormal.com. But today, we have a minisode sent in to us from one of our listeners named Charlie. And before we get to Charlie's experience, a big reminder that our Patreon community is going from strength to strength. It keeps this show going, literally, and it's also a place where you can get your ad-free early releases, and it's also possible to get a new Dark Bites episode, 30 minutes in length, delivered only to Patreons every Sunday of the year, 52 times a year. And with a back catalogue of Dark Bites of over 155 plus hours for you to sit and binge through. Also at the highest tier, from December onwards, we'll be introducing an informal podcast, which will be me discussing the topics that have appeared around recent shows. And also, by January at the latest, we'll have our own forum that the guys in our community can literally get to know each other and me. And that's still in its infancy right now, but hopefully there will be live Q&As, live discussions. People have their opinions, and I know our community on Patreon is a place where your opinions do not stir up angry debates or discussions. The respect there is immense. And if that sounds like the place for you as a paranormal fan, head over to patreon.com/thedarkparanormal. Or click the link in the show notes. But back to Charlie's email. Hi Kevin, I've been a fan of the Dark Paranormal for a while. My name is Charlie and I live in Ohio. I'm also a podcaster. My show is called Believing the Bizarre. In brackets, you can cut out all the podcast promo stuff if you need to. Close brackets. Kev now just jumping in to say, no, of course I'll give your show a plug. You're giving us material for our show. It's only fair. Plus, I didn't get to have exposure to the audience I do without other podcasters lending me a hand up. So it's an absolute pleasure and honour to do so for a fellow podcaster. But I continue. I love your show, and I've been listening for a long time. I thought I would finally submit a few of my own experiences. I usually deal with other people's stories, not my own. I've only had 2 notable experiences. Theatre has been in my bones and a part of my family's history for a long, long time. I believe all theatres are haunted. I think it may be down to the constant feeling of emotion,
being explored and felt and expressed, that leaves marks in them. And all of that emotion poured out and into those places make them perfect places for spirit to live off all that energy. Perhaps this is the same process that opens up theatres as a type of portal, a kind of place where ghosts can pierce the veil. You would be pretty hard-pressed to find a theatre without a ghost story that the staff and the actors don't believe with all their heart. But I wanted to start with 2 theatre experiences my dad had first. My dad was drafted in the Vietnam War. Thankfully, it was very close to the end, so he didn't see any action. But after he was drafted, he went down to the enlistment station and enlisted, so he would just have to be in the infantry, from what I understand anyway. So he took the test and he scored pretty high. So he got to choose his MOS. And he chose the most pastiest thing he could. He was not a good soldier. He worked in social services for the army. He was mostly an orderly, stationed in Okinawa, Japan, and worked with the guys who'd been hurt in combat. He somehow convinced his supervisor that a theatre was a great thing for people healing in the group. So he arranged to put on some plays there. One day, after building a set in Okinawa, he was sitting in theatre in the stage with 2 other guys smoking. As they're sitting there talking, they're completely alone in the theatre, but they start to hear footsteps coming from behind the stage. They all stop talking as the smoke slowly rolls off the lit cigarettes and they listen. They hear these footsteps walk out onto the stage, but no one was there. They walk all the way across the stage they're still sitting on. And when they reached the other side, they stopped and vanished. Like I said up top, I've been involved in theatre my whole life. It's literally a family passion. My grandparents were heavily involved in their local theatre group, the Brecksville Little Theatre, in Brecksville, Ohio. My mother and father both worked with this company too. And my father had quite a few encounters in that same theatre when he was directing or working on sets. The most remarkable encounter, the most memorable one, that he experienced at Brecksville happened one day when he went in early to work on sets. He was alone in the theatre on this particular morning, and no one else was there. He'd brought along his toolbox from his car, walked into the entryway, and set it down on the box office counter. He went into the theatre, knowing that he needed the 2-story ladder eventually, so he leaned it against the second-floor box seats that overhung the main floor. Then he realized he'd left his coffee in the car, so he steps back outside to grab it. His was the only car in the parking lot, as he'd opened the theatre himself that very morning. When he walked back through the entryway and into the theatre, he froze. That huge ladder he just leant against the balcony was now standing upright in the middle of the stage. That's when he said out loud, "Okay, I get it." He left his tools behind, and before he walked out, he added, "I'll try again tomorrow." Now I'll give you my first theatre experience. This one from my childhood. The theatre where my father had his experience is also the same theatre where I had my first memorable experience. I was only 8 years old at the time. It was late, after a performance, and most people had gone home. I was still there with my dad and my grandmother. They were upstairs chatting with some of the theatre folks, and I needed to use the bathroom before we left. But the bathrooms were downstairs, past the party room and the dressing rooms, and the bathroom then was down the hall and round the corner. I went downstairs, all the lights were on, and they told me to make sure they were turned off once I was done.
since no one else would be down there after I'd left. We were closing down the theatre for the night. As I walked to the back, I didn't feel anything unusual. Nothing was eerie or off. I was a little tired maybe, but nothing strange. But as I finished up in the bathroom, I started to feel a pressure in the air, and I ran my hands through the water, just to have plausible deniability in case they'd asked if I'd washed them. Then I very quickly, strolled down the hall through the party room because I was getting very nervous and a little scared. When I finally reached the door, I turned and I flipped off the lights. Just as I spun round to leave, I saw it. At the end of the hall, where the bathrooms were, a head poked out from behind the wall. It was just the head leaning over, silhouetted there, watching me. I slammed the door and I flew up those stairs to tell my dad and grandma. They both laughed because they already knew just how haunted that building was. That first experience, when I was a kid, felt like a curious observation from a neutral spirit. But this next one, once more in a theatre, felt much, much darker. I was in the last year of college, getting my bachelor's degree in theatre arts. I was the stage manager for our final production, a Shakespeare comedy. I'll never remember the name of which one, though. We had a 2-story set built in our small black box theatre. Actually, it was really impressive. The city towers rose above the audience. During rehearsals, we used 2 large puppets, about maybe 4.5 feet tall, as stand-ins for some of the real actors. These were like oversized marionettes. You practically had to wear them to make them move. One night after rehearsals, the actors all left for the day, and I told the director I wanted to stay behind to finish my notes and try and get a bit of a head start on the next day. So he left, everyone was gone, and you realize there is no silence like an empty theatre. The puppets were leaned up against the audience chairs in the corner, near the main light switches, nowhere near the doors that we used to come and go. We mostly used big double-stage doors to move larger props. Each door was maybe 16 feet tall and 6 feet wide, with a small staging space just beyond it, followed by another set of those doors. So I'm alone in the black box, listening to my iPod, some fast music to keep me awake, but I could not shake the feeling of being watched. It felt like the eyes were coming from the catwalks above me. Maybe 15 minutes in, I'd had enough, and I said out loud, Okay, I'll finish this tomorrow. I threw my computer and paperwork into my bag, I zipped it up, and I walked quickly toward the corner with the lights. I plugged in the ghost light, a single bulb on a stand that lights theatres when no one's around, and I flipped off the corner lights. The ghost light in the centre of the room was casting eerie shadows. It felt like I was floating in space. And that's when I felt it. A sudden, much closer pressure. It was like something had walked right behind me, was threatening, and was very close. Kind of like a feeling of being escorted out by an unseen presence. There were no voices, I didn't hear a thing, but I knew it wanted me out. I'd clearly overstayed my welcome. I felt it following me all the way to the first set of stage doors. I stepped through into the staging area and turned to look back. That's when I saw them. Both puppets stood upright in the middle of the theatre, silhouettes glowing in the ghost light. I could even see parts of their costumes. It was definitely them. I turned and I ran.
I grabbed the handle of the last set of doors and I pulled them shut. But something on the other side was pulling back, shaking the door violently. I finally managed to get the lock turned and instantly it stopped. No sound, no vibration, just stillness. As I was leaving, it was surreal. The lobby was totally normal. No strangeness at all. There was even a custodian waxing the floor when I passed. I walked straight out of that school. I called my now wife and I told her what happened. I said, I am never being alone in there again. That was the scariest encounter I've ever had. My heart's pounding even now, 10 years later, just writing this out. I just wanted to share my experience with a, to me, new audience that I haven't really had the chance to speak to before. I hope you check the show out sometime, and if you ever wish to collaborate, I'd be totally interested. No concerns if not, and you can use my name, Love Charlie. Well, Charlie, firstly, a huge thank you for sending in your minisode, because you're quite right, and it's a very interesting perspective. We often talk about stone tape theory, about castles, about places which have seen genuine drama, tragedy, murder, etc. But we don't think about the emotional mindset or sometimes turmoil that actors and actresses will put themselves through in order to make that part seem more realistic. And places like theatres must absorb some of that authentic, albeit by proxy, energy. I've recently spent a lot of time listening to some very, very out there theories, very few of which I even give credence to, but it's interesting to see how people's minds can travel down certain paths. And one of the theories is very different to this, but it's reminiscent of the idea of a building built to capture somebody's negative or positive energy. And thinking about it, that's what a theatre is, be it the actors themselves or indeed the reaction of the audience. Play after play, year after year, that building absorbs all of those emotions, be them negative or positive. And given we now have at least a theory that spirit power seems to work off emotions and energy, theatres could be the ideal battery for a network of spirits, so to speak. So Charlie, thank you not only for your experience, but for some definite food for thought. And they're the sort of experiences I love the most. And of course, in terms of collaboration, it doesn't really work in terms of the main show, but we can definitely do something for our Patreons. So I will be in touch. And everyone, please, if you get the chance, do check out Charlie's podcast, Believing in the Bizarre, wherever you get your podcasts. In the meantime, stay safe, take care, and I'll speak to you all on Friday for a different looking Dark Paranormal. Until then, goodbye.